podcast about generational differences, where it's just two of us. There's no fluff this time. It's just the thing, because
generational differences are responsible for why we're only two people. I don't know what else to say.
welcome to the podcast. I'm Atlas Novak. I'm your millennial. Who else is here with me?
I'm Dino the genetic marvel, and I'm apparently an old curmudgeonly fart.
Yeah.
Sorry. So. It's not inaccurate. It's not inaccurate. It's just hard to hear, I guess. I don't know.
No, he's a Gen Xer. So to those of you who are listening to the show for the first time, and to those of you who have been here for a long time, thank you. But Cole has quit the show. And
yes.
So as a result, that's 3 different Gen Z hosts that we haven't been able to keep for longer than 50 episodes.
And to be clear, they were Gen Z or Gen Z inspired. You know, like it's
first 2 were actual Gen Z. Third one was about my age, and then but yeah, for various reasons. The point is that we're gonna try something a little different, and we are doing this episode guestless because I kind of wanted to try a new, more structured format with the show, which is pick a specific topic that 2 generations might argue over.
Yes.
And then we have it out.
Which I think is going to be fun. I think it's a good, because you know what? I feel like we're both idiots in the same way.
Sure. Yeah.
Which makes it also entertaining because I have, it's a good question. Well, anyways, we might as well get on with the question itself, right? Which is, what is your relationship to work?
Yes.
Which, where to start on that one, right?
Mm-hmm. So, work, I guess I'm describing, is the way you make a living. It can also branch into, like, you know, creative works or chores, shit around the house. But I think the main thing I wanted to look into was the way you make a living. With the pandemic and the anti-work movements that that sprouted out these last few years, you have a lot of places unionizing for the first time in almost half a century because people are realizing that working sucks, and
it's literally the worst. That's what it is. It's literally the worst.
Yeah.
Like I can't. Well, okay. So let's be very clear, so we know kind of where we're starting from. Right? Is that both Atlas and I grew up middle class, upper middle class, right? If not bordering on we could see the rich people from far away.
Yeah.
Right? In Atlas's case, it was because his family crumbled before his eyes horribly. Took longer than the Confederacy. Like, if anything, maybe your parents should have been generals. Like. It's not a bad idea.
General Roger Novak, MD. That would have gone well. I think I just doxed my dad.
Science. You kind of did. Yeah, that's probably not. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, like realistically, we had. So the difference was my family had less education, but were cohesive. So we didn't shoot ourselves right in the. Some of us may have. I'll tell you that much.
How old were your parents when they got married?
Let me think. Well, so they had a kid, then got married, had 4 more. So, which we always make fun of my oldest brother. We call him a bastard because he's a bastard. That's great to have one up on the firstborn, you know. But it would have been my mom would have been early 20s. My dad would have been late 20s.
Okay.
And like by the time I was born, my mom was 32. My dad would have been 38. And that was the 5th child.
Okay.
So 40, 38, 36, around there, 36, 38, something late 30s. She was early 30s, late 30s. They had been together for quite some time at that point. But yeah, so it would have been early 20s, like their whole existence, as far as I know. And they will not tell me otherwise because, well, You know how old people are. They don't want to tell you the truth. It's a bunch of bastards.
My parents got married in their like mid 30s. They were a year apart from each other, so there wasn't really much of a like I thought it was a little weird initially where okay, you know how when you're growing up and
Yep.
you find out somebody is a senior and they're dating a sophomore and you're like,
Yes.
oh shit.
You're
And
like, that's not okay. But
yeah,
odd.
we're like that's a little creepy. And
Yeah.
then for because the way I had seen it with my parents was they were a year apart from each other. Meanwhile, but it turns out a lot of people will just marry a few years apart from each other, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like it's just
it's very specific when you're young,
Mhm.
right? Like that's the hard part where for a lot of people where they're like, oh, you know, they're one's a senior, one's whatever. You guys have all words for everything. You know,
freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Yeah.
Goonie,
Okay.
goo goo. Like
bar. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, like the when you're developing as a teen, like I could see a year being important, right? Because it's in relation to your whole life. But as soon as you crack 18, it's a free for all. People are number one, perverted. Number two, zero standards.
Yeah.
Like Victoria and I have 2 years difference.
Okay.
How are you? You guys have how much? Same year?
Katie and I are something like 6 months apart. Where
6 months.
Yeah. And she's older than me by 6 months.
Oh, that's hey, be careful when you get in an argument. She's like, listen to your elders, young man. You just like,
she hasn't actually pulled that on me yet.
She may soon.
Yeah.
Hey, once the vows are done, that's when the big guns come out. I'll tell you.
I mean, that's where that whole half your age plus 7 thing to determine if it's okay, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It comes in handy there. But the only reason I bring that up is how old our parents were when they had kids, I think also dictated how they raised us with their relationship to work. Because my parents got married in their 30s, had me in their early 40s. So
yeah, not a good time.
Yeah, by the time I was like entering the workforce, what does that make? Entering the workforce by being your shitty teenage job insert thing here. They were in their late 50s.
Yeah.
Like mid to late 50s.
See, I have a friend who's on his 3rd kid, and he's around my age, if not a year older. And I'm like, bro, when your kids are leaving university, you're planning your final retirement party. Like that's a weird, like, and that was the thing is my dad. So when I was a teenager, my dad was in his mid to late 50s, right? He was not to be fucked with. Like that was, so I have a story where I got kicked out of school, which I have a few stories about me getting kicked out of school. So
we get it. You were a juvenile delinquent. But
I wasn't even that bad.
He was wearing a Fonz jacket and saying how he hates the adult. Okay, yeah.
You want to hear something hilarious? Okay, Atlas. Was one semester. I was in grade 12, so it was the year before I was supposed to graduate. I did not graduate with my year because of this thing.
Dino done got held back.
Well, technically I didn't have enough credits. It wasn't
Okay.
But so I had four classes. There were 4 classes a day, right? I don't know how you guys do it down there. It's just four periods, a 5th for lunch. That was it. My 4 courses, I got a 24, a 25, and a 26, and then a 36 in another class. Okay, hey. I didn't miss one day during the semester. Not one day. I just sat there and did nothing. I was like, I don't give a shit.
This is out of 100, right?
Yeah. Oh, those were percentages, sir.
Oh, okay.
Percentages. Okay.
Okay. See, now I'm hoping like if you have a 24, a 25, a 26, like if you got a 27, it should be like a royal flush in poker where they're just like, you know what, you pass. That takes some finesse, good sir.
Greedy me. I think it was a 33. It was a 33, not a 36. Yeah. it was, but like, I was totally standing there going like, hey, what the fuck? And I was just like, so they kicked me out of school. I was back in school in 2 weeks. It was fine. But this is the problem is when you don't know the rules. Like my dad walked in and goes, yeah, let's talk. And they're like, oh, well, the VP is actually busy. That's okay. We'll wait. And the worst part was I was in work clothes. So I'm in like jogging pants that are covered in grease and, you know, for my dad's business. My dad is in a suit because that's how my dad used to roll.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, we're not going to work. As I would drive him to work. I'm wearing greasy clothes. He's in a suit. Okay. Every once in a while, he'd even sit in the back just to show me who's boss.
Really? That's a hell of a power move right there. That's
Hey, wait, let's be honest. So my dad, every one of the kids got cars, but every car was in the business name. So if you did something shitty, he goes, looks like the business is taking your car. Sucks to be you. Right?
Interesting. Okay.
It was very, very logical. Like my dad did things because he knew, hey, you're too stupid to understand what you have now. You're gonna get a nice car. That's great, but it's the company car. So when the cop sees company name, he's gonna go, this little piece of shit's fucking over his dad. Okay, let's try not to be so mean.
Okay, so now,
right?
so your was this machine shop, right? That was the
Okay, yeah, it was a machine shop. So my dad brought me to school. By the end of the meeting, they're like, oh well, we're gonna have to talk about it. And I goes, listen, you talk, that's fine. I've already called the superintendent, so let's just stop joking. And they were like, oh well, you know, like that's fine. I'm gonna go to work. I'll be waiting your call today. Within 2 hours, they call back. They go, okay, yeah, Dino can come back to school. He's like, good. I'm glad. When I walked in, teachers were like, holy fuck, how did you get back? And I'm like, you can't keep me. You can't.
I'm invincible. Yeah.
And you know what? The funny thing was, I'm like, show me something. Like my entire high school career was show me something worth learning. And I would get mad. I'm like, that's not useful information. You guys suck. And then, yeah, that carried over into workforce. It didn't serve me well. I'll tell you that. There are a lot of useless people in every job. Okay, Nick, I'm sure that you can attest to this. There are a ton of useless people. God, you work in medical. You, Atlas, should definitely know that there are useless people everywhere.
I think I gifted the book, but there's a book called Bullshit Jobs that I read this past year that you should definitely read, people, if you haven't. But basically, it's like most of the jobs that we work are kind of just there to pretend that they're useful. They don't actually do anything.
True.
Yeah.
That is just painfully accurate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one of those things that I can't really understand. Recently I found out the statistic that an ant farm is the most efficient functioning thing we know, right? Like that has multiple organisms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There 40% of ant farms, ant colonies do nothing. They just stay mobile and working, like just walking, so no one gives them work. And I'm like, hold on.
The anti-work masters, ants. Let's go.
The most efficient of systems that we know of, 40% just wasting fucking time. Just walking around with a clipboard. Just
pretending you got somewhere to go.
Yeah. Apparently that's the thing. That's been one of the biggest realizations, I think, as an adult was like, oh, some people just never do anything their whole life. Like just nothing.
There's a famous like Twitter thing where it's what was the biggest revelation you had as an adult is don't be productive because you will be punished with more work at your job.
How is that a reality? Do you what kind of a nut job does that?
What?
Right? Like you're doing best. I'm going to give you more work. No, make the people not doing their work do work. Why is that? How does that not make sense?
There's something called the paradox of, or it's like a paradox of productiveness, something like that, where it's you will keep getting promoted until you get to a job where you suck at it. A good example being Michael Scott on The Office, where he was like the best salesman Dunder Mifflin had. So they promoted him to manager, and he's Michael Scott. So
greatest boss in the world.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That's
but like, you see what I'm getting at? We're just
Yeah.
like they, like he got promoted and then now he sucks at it. So he's not going to get demoted back to a salesman.
See, but he should.
He should. Yeah.
I've heard that so many times. People who are great salespeople got bumped up to management, and they're the worst. Like that was a consistency when I worked for a financial institution. Was people who were great at sales, and people were like, "You should be going to management," and they're like, "Okay." And then they became managers, and you're like, "Yeah, you're the worst because you're holding people to your standard as the number one salesperson."
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work. That doesn't work anywhere.
Yeah, I think management in general isn't something that is taught as a course or like isn't something you're trained in. It's something you get to just by being good at the thing below them,
which makes no sense.
Yeah, so like it's a huge hit or miss thing.
Yeah. Well, like look, let's be very clear. On the grand scale of the universe right now, most decisions that companies make are made by an accountant, right? It is an administrator who just tallies the numbers and say, this is more worthwhile than this, so we're going to do what is more worthwhile. That's it. And that has no concern with regards to how the business works, time of the year, all those little idiosyncrasies that factor into a business's profitability or ability to be profitable. And people don't care, right? And that's like, look, even now, right this second, I'm getting ads on my phone from stuff I just recently bought. Why the fuck would you give me an ad? I've already bought the thing. I bought the thing. Why? Like, okay, we're in a hotel for the weekend for Victoria's birthday. It's a really nice hotel. It's very fun. It's got cool little knickknacks and doodads. I even have this to interrogate myself. It's like, oh, it's really hot under this thing. But then I can do that. It's great. So, we bought it using an app called hotels.com, which we would love to be sponsored by, just in case if hotels.com wants to be sponsored, we will do it. Because I literally have like 15 trips coming up. I'm all booked on hotels.com. So
yeah,
give us sponsor money. So now on my YouTube, hotels.com. I'm like, why? I have the app. I've collected free nights.
Okay, I understand for stuff like that where like you're it's not something you own after you buy it. It's a trip. That I get them re-advertising to you. What I don't get is when you buy like, I don't know, a refrigerator, something you wouldn't own multiple of, and they're like, check out these new why? Like
I have multiple fridges, but still
fuck you.
It doesn't make any sense.
Fuck you and your multiple fridges.
I almost was going to put in another one, but I was like, no, we don't have the space. We don't have the space. It's just ridiculous. That's fair. I feel like people who have multiple fridges and freezers are definitely top of the list for people who should get their, get killed in the revolution. That's fair.
My dad's got 3.
I only have one freezer.
Yeah, he's got his.
Good to have.
He's got his one in the kitchen, and then he has 2 in his garage.
Oh, that's a good idea. See, I don't have a garage. I only have an over.
Okay,
it's not. But I'm thinking of putting a fridge outside. I'll be honest with you.
Like I'm not against having multiple fridges. I'm against. Don't fucking advertise to me after. Like we got a new oven.
Yes.
About 6 months ago, and we still get like ads for. Really? Come on, man.
Yeah, especially in this day and age. Now I'm not sure how insane you and Katie are, but I know Victoria is full crazy. So Victoria will go online and just start searching and comparing different fridges. So like her search will be flooded with fridges so she can find the right one. And then we get the right one. We get the new fridge. And then it's like, wait, why are we still getting ads? This doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Like as smart as the computer is, it's actually not, it's not aware the way we consider it to be aware.
Yeah.
Because see, this is the weird part. And one of the things that I think is the reason why we're still safe from Skynet taking over is because the decisions that are being made right now by AI make no fucking sense. Right.
Well, because most of them are just like, how do I replicate what the person told me to do?
Yeah.
And that's not that's why you get AI art where the arms and the legs looked all fucky. look all ridiculous
All of them.
because it's hard to do that. We're getting way off track, but
We are.
yeah. So you said your parents, like where they kind of your dad owned a machine shop, and he tried to instill into you and the rest of your siblings, right? Was like a hard work ethic of like get a job, right?
Not even that. It was more so looking, and I'll be honest with you, I'm still understanding how the education he provided. I'll be straight up. Like my dad passed away a few years ago, and I'll tell you right now, because I always will remember him fondly. I actually loved my father. My father loved me. It was great. It was fun. I'm sad that he went, but at the same time, he went happy, so I'm okay. But like the idea, the principles he tried to think wasn't just, work hard and you'll be rewarded, but it was like you have to be smarter. You have to be growing with every new role, every new job. You should be trying to become the best. You're mastering these abilities. Like in a machine shop, you had to master all these different abilities. I could not master one, like not one thing he tried. But in the office, I was stellar, and I'd be pricing jobs and stuff. Like I would finish a week's worth of office work in 3 hours, and I'm like, it's lunchtime on Monday, and I'm done the week's work. He's like, okay, well, change and go to work, right? Like that was a different time, though. So
a different time, meaning what, like early 2000s, or
that was, or well, not really. It would have been the 90s because I worked during school too, right? Like my dad was a slave driver. I didn't have days off from school, Christmas vacation. No, I had work. That's summertime work.
So this is around the time of like Enron and stuff like that.
Yeah, just before
like .com bubble happening. So you had that instilled into you, whereas with me, my parents in particular, like for my family, I think it was less about the job or the amount of money we were making as adults that my dad was concerned with. I think he wanted us to have a good education.
Yeah.
And to use that to then go out into the workforce. I think as kids, he wanted us to be kind of doctors, and then he realized I was bad at math and my sister had no hand-eye coordination, so out the window that went.
So yeah,
which is fine. I think he made peace with it, which is good. I'm glad he didn't cling on to it and try and make it happen.
It's a hard, that's the thing that I remember seeing was like your parents want you to do better than them, right?
Yeah,
but at the time, it doesn't make a difference. It's not a thing, right?
My parents are like mid boomers, so like they're born early to mid 50s, right? And that's usually described as like the me generation, the selfish generation. Which is also why, as a kid, we were told, go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college. You'll be set up for a good job. Go to college, go to college. And then we get out of college and womp womp. The entire economy crashes. And luckily, I'm a younger millennial. So when I graduated, it was starting to recover. But the recovery was you get a job, but it's not enough to make a living wage.
Yeah. It was not a good recovery.
Yeah.
See, when I started working was just after the .com, whatever that was, right? Like my first job was my first non-machine shop job. My first full-time non-machine shop job was working for a bank in 2002, right? And that was, it was a great time to be alive. Like, I was like, okay, yeah. It was still a shit job. Like, I still had a shit job.
Yeah.
At the bank for a few years. Then I hurt my back. Then I went back, kicked its ass, then started getting real job, like much better jobs. But even still, like, it wasn't until 2010 that I got a real, 2008 when I got a real career level job. And then I was like, yeah, it's fine. I'm kicking its ass, But that was, it was still like, I heard stories about people who had no money, and I'm like, just go get a job. I did. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But it turns out that was a horrible decision too on my part. So
Why?
A lot of people I knew through financial institutions would jump to other roles at other institutions, other roles. And while I was just a good guy, like I knew what I was doing because I knew what I was doing. I was smart and I would dedicate myself like my dad taught me. Nobody really cared.
Right.
Like people didn't care about, oh, you're smart. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Oh, you're good at talking to people. Nobody cares. And it was like because I didn't have a degree, because I went to college, but I didn't finish. I still have 5 general education courses that I was like, fuck, this is stupid. I'm out. And I just canceled instead of getting something else, which looking back, I really should have because I would have graduated. But, what are you going to do?
Well, I mean, you still can, right? They hold on to your credits for, no?
I've called and they're like, good luck. And I'm like, aren't you guys becoming a university soon? They're like, yeah, okay, bye. I'm like, yeah, thanks for nothing.
Never mind that.
Well, now, okay, let's be honest. You went to university, right?
Yes.
Right. Which is like a real university, because in the States it's different, right?
Yeah.
The college is like for poor people, but also that would be like what, state college or something?
We call it community college.
Community college, right?
Yeah. So you have like community college, and then you move on to bigger universities. Typically, what people do here in the States is to get your gen ed requirements in community college for the first 2 years, and then go to your university of choice. Now, when I first started in 2013, it was kind of stigmatized to go to community college because you're like, either there's the implication that you're one of the poors, or
for sure,
or it was just like you were too dumb to get into a real college, so you had to.
Also valid.
Yeah. Now, post-COVID and post-COVID economic troubles and stuff, and post anti-work and all this union stuff, I think my generation and your generation maybe, and definitely Gen Z's case, when they have kids, they are probably not going to go to college. It will lead to a better life.
No,
they will go.
Not one of them.
I will tell my children that going to college can lead to a better life, but don't feel pressured to go, because it's not always going to turn out like trade schools. Great.
No.
Community college before going to university, I'm going to make them do that no matter what if they decide to go.
So, okay, let me ask you this, because when I was in so I went to college, Victoria went to university, right? And in Canada, there are colleges which equivalent to community colleges, but you can have like a pretty bang-in college. So like there's a animation department in the college that I went to.
Dope. That
is known to have been used for a lot of the people that work for Disney and Pixar and like, and when I mean a lot of them, I mean like a huge amount of their graduates end up there. So it's college was like, hey, if you want to find a job, go to college. If you want to learn about life and yourself, go to university, because maybe you're smart and you can read. But like, so that was the thing. So like I went to when I was in high school, I took all university advanced courses. Like my school was an advanced, like a gifted kids school. And that's why we didn't have a football team or any cool teams. It was always just like, knowledge is our game. And I'm like, you guys suck. I'm 6'2", eat shit. Right.
I think the equivalent to that in the States is AP courses, advanced placement, where like it counts towards college credit. Right.
It doesn't count, but you need that to get into college. Or university.
Yeah. So AP courses at least in California, can be used for university credit.
Cool. Well, because your admission is based on your SATs, right?
SATs, essay, and like recommendations or whatever bullshit. Yeah.
Right. So for us, there may be now, but this is also 20 years ago, right? 25 years ago. Fuck.
Feel old man. Yeah.
Every day, man. I got a haircut and my hair looked more gray. I was like, Jesus, that's not fair. So was just you had your transcript from high school and you're like, I did this. This is what I did. And that's what the ground would be like. They would be like, okay, fine, sure. So like I had all advanced courses. So when I actually, my dad was like, apply to universities. I'm like, Dad, I'm not getting it. He's like, apply anyway. You never know. And so I applied and they were like, no, you're an idiot. And I'm like, I tried. But then for college, they're like, God, yes, come on over, right?
Yeah.
So the funny thing was I went to classes with a lot of dumb people. And I think like they wanted to be smart, but they just didn't have the upbringing or the opportunity that I did, right? Which
now
that's
are we talking like Brittany Murphy on King of the Hill, or are we talking like full on Lenny from Of Mice and Men? How dumb?
a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I'll tell you. Some people,
little Luann,
like,
little Lenny, yeah.
Like some people, you're like, oh, son, you need to learn how to shovel real well. That's all. You're going to be good with just shoveling, you know. Yeah. And then other people, they like. This is the thing is, especially when I was going to school, I met a lot of people who's their first time where they were making choices in their life. And some people really respected that. And they were like, wow, this is my chance. Other people went crazy with it. I was kind of middle of the pack where I'm like, I'd go out and I would drink. So I got in trouble regularly at the student union because I would order a pitcher and then I just drink from the pitcher. And they would get really mad because they're like, we don't wash those. And I'm like, I don't care. That's
alcohol sterile.
Well, I was like, I'm not dirty. And they're like, you're definitely dirty. I'm like, yeah. And I'd pound the whole thing. Right.
Yeah.
I remember once they'd have parties at the student union where they would just move all the tables out and everyone would just dance and get shit faced. Because I said student union. It was like the bar, but it also had like a video game area and like some foosball and shit like that. Right. They also had a stage.
What did they call it? I know there was one of those at UCR too. I'm trying to remember the name.
Maybe like a student center or something.
Yeah, something like that. When it usually had like a cutesy name, like a bar would, right?
So we didn't have because I went to college. It was in the suburbs. Like I rolled out of bed and drove to class, and it took me like 20 minutes, no problem. And I'm like, my dad paid for school, so I had a parking pass the year round. I had like it was great. I was like, yeah, no problem. It's fine. Sounds great. You know, so people are like, oh, you got a parking pass? I'm like, yeah, I also have my own car. Fuck you. Like, people were like, I took the bus here. I'm like, that's because you're poverty, bitch. Like, it was great. So
when we do an episode about public transportation, my ass is coming for you. But we'll that's neither here nor there.
I took it. I took it for years, and I'm telling you, I don't know if I can go back. It sucks so bad. People also have been getting killed up here on transit. So, but yeah, and we have no guns, man. This is just violence. Like just. You know, the angry Canadians were like, "Where's all the snow?" You know.
So yeah, with like participation at university, and then you finally go out into the world, and now you're realizing that either the time, like your work isn't really for anything that like brings you joy. And I think for past generations, it was just, well, because I got to feed my family. Who gives a fuck about?
But they also had breakfast with their family, had dinner with their family, hung out with their family, stayed at home and did their gardening, had hobbies. We have none of those things.
Yeah, because with technology being as how it is, there's like an expectation for your boss to be able to reach you all the time.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's like weakening workers' rights over the past few decades, and now all of a sudden everyone's pissed off. And I gotta say, I don't blame them. I'll give you an example. So there's a Popeyes up the street from my apartment, and I like Popeyes, but the Popeyes has the worst service in the world. Like I'll get there. There's 3 cars total, me 2 ahead of me. And it takes them 15 minutes for me to get my food.
I don't see that as bad. Is that too much?
I think it's kind of too much in that, like, it's 15 minutes per person.
Hey, Paul. What's happening?
What's up? So like they just have like the
Wow.
they have the worst service in the world, and I do not blame them, and I think it's kind of awesome because fuck working at Popeyes.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that.
And it's also interesting. Like, I'm engaged. I'm suit shopping for my wedding. Every weekend, every other weekend, I'm going either with my mom or my fiance to places that sell suits. And the way that I and my fiance treat the workers, and the way my mom treats the workers is very different. Where my mom's not she's not going full Karen, but she's more demanding of them. You know?
So, but is it unreasonable demanding? Like, is she demanding the service that they are required to give her, and you guys are being light, or is she asking for too much?
I think it's more the former.
Yeah.
But also in our case, it's like we're only here for this. We don't have to be anywhere. Like right the fuck now afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's okay to just be like,
take your time.
Yeah, take your time. Do what you got to do. Like I know like you're understaffed. I guarantee you are.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, my mom is like, yeah, can we see this in this size? And then they'll be like, yeah, let me go check in back. And then my mom be like, where are they? And I'll be like, they'll come back eventually.
You know what? I'll be honest with you, Atlas. I share a similar feeling with that. Whereas since I've disregarded my time and I tell people, oh, take your time. I have nowhere to be. I get, number one, way better service.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, just a better experience where people are like, thanks for not rushing.
Yeah.
You never been to Popeyes? I got them in. You should try, Paul, because they're really good. Like,
it's pretty solid. Okay, you remember the whole like chicken sandwich thing that every fast food place started doing? They're in the top 3 for sure, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, listen, they're the top. It's my understanding that Popeyes is number 1 with no guilt. If you like a little dash of guilt, it's Chick-fil-A. There you go. That's
not bad. Sorry,
no.
You were saying?
But the whole idea is that, like, when I'm adamant in this stage of my life, and I have not always been. I will be free to admit that. Mm-hmm. But instead, dealing with people, I immediately, especially after being on the phones for a few years, I have just taken a point of no. Hey, you're a human. I'm a human. We can be human, but let's handle this problem together. Mm-hmm. And everything changed. Like someone's like, sorry, we're busy. I'm like, hey, like so many times I was known at all of the drive-through Starbucks in my area because as soon as they would come and be like, hi, welcome to Starbucks. Can you just wait a minute? I'm like, take all the time you need. And when they came back, I'm like, how are you today? And they're like, I'm fine. Thank you for asking. And I'm like, that's cool.
Good. Howard Schultz took me out back and beat me with a claw hammer.
At least once, right? Yeah. And not even like claw side, definitely. But he switched it up. Give it some balance. Yeah, no. It's but that's the whole thing, right? Like they would always be like, oh, hey, somebody left this drink. Do you want extra stuff? Like they treat me better, right? But that's like I learned from being on the other side. Mm-hmm. Right. Like I dealt with rich people for the longest time and rich people's money. And trust me, they are cunts when it comes to their money. That's why I fired 2 clients who were super wealthy. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with you. They're like, why? I'm like, you're a bad person. And their spouses would be like, snap, you got told, motherfucker. Like it was great.
It was best. I just love the idea of like a posh, like old money wife. You'd be like, you're a shitty person. Oh, snap, son. Like just immediately turning.
I'm telling you, at least one of them dropped an N-word. And I was like, yo.
No.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah.
R.I.P. Gen Z kid. Guy. We love Gen Z kid. Let's be cool, right?
We love all the Gen Z kids.
All of our previous co-hosts, we would welcome back and we would love them forever and wish them the best in their ventures of learning to be a man. Or lady, that's cool too.
Or non-binary or whatever the fuck you're doing. But so like another like example, we were at the Macy's and we were trying to find somebody to help us because it was like I think one person we found. And she was like, yeah, hang on. I think he's on break. I'll go get him. I'm like, it's fine. We'll keep looking.
Let him enjoy his break.
Wait for him to come back from his break. My mom was like, no, it's okay. You can go get him. I'm like, no, let him finish his break. And then my mom like walked off, and I was standing next to the employee, and then she was like, yeah, so I'm a teacher, and this is my second job. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry. Like the fact that they felt comfortable enough to open up to me about the fact that teachers aren't getting paid enough, which whole nother episode in the future. But
I'll happily discuss that.
Yeah.
I want to break down the numbers for it. But anyways,
gotta get my friend Josh on the show.
For sure.
Yeah.
But that right there, like, Atlas, you tell me, because you work in a different environment than I did, but have you ever seen someone like they come out of their office and they're like wiping their face and they're like, oh, I was just on my break. You're like, guy, get ready, leave your break in the break room, be ready, and then come out. Like, that was one thing. I got in trouble so often because I loved eating at my desk. People are like, don't eat your desk. And I'm like, I don't take a lunch. They're like, take a lunch. And I'm like, I don't want to take a lunch. I just want to get through my day. Just fuck off and let me eat. Also, I would eat my lunch at like 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, so. Yeah.
I would rather, because they give you like a half hour for lunch and it's unpaid. And I'm like, and in California law, you have to do it between your 4th and 5th hour, somewhere in there. And I'm like, can I just do it at the end of the day so I could leave earlier? And they're like, no,
that's not how it's meant to work.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, but I'm better than all of your other employees. Let me leave early, fuckers.
I run a department by myself. Who gives a shit?
You should definitely get cards that say head of department.
That's what I put on my resume. And absolutely. I am looking for other jobs. So people out there, looking for a copy editor, hit me up.
Listen, like, that's the crazy part. Like, what I still have your meme department, I would get that job. I said mad shit all day long. I am fucking retarded, so that's fair.
I had to write. Okay, so I applied to a website, like a nerd writing website, where they had like articles about stuff. And my application, I had to write 400 to 600 words about why they unbanned Change of Heart in Yu-Gi-Oh. I had to write 400 to 600 words about Yu-Gi-Oh. And
that sounds like it's right up your alley.
It is right up my alley. Yeah. And then it got to the we were talking about payment, where they're like, you get a flat rate for each article. But in the first email they sent me, where they're like, we're interested, we'd like to move further. Can you do this thing? In the first email, they said it was flat rate plus number of views. And then in the later email, they took out the number of views thing. And I was like, what happened to the number of views? And they're like, that was a mistake. I'm like, I would love to move further, but I don't want to, you clearly offered it to me before. I think I deserve that. Yeah, it's misrepresentation. I think I deserve that. They're like, all right, peace. And that was it.
Which, like, I'll be honest with you, Alice, that's one thing that I definitely want to start doing more of, is writing those kind of articles just to engage people, because getting it from a different perspective is valuable. I think you'd be great for that. Mm-hmm. But that's one of those things where it's like, how many, like, well, here's a question for you. Even right now, I was talking about this with Victoria. I'm like, you know where my dad failed in life? The only place was he told his kids, come work with me. What he should have done was, listen, I'll teach you how to work. Now go do your own thing. That's what he should have done. And that would have been a very different life for the whole family.
That's how you prevent Nepo babies, people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because look, hey, the Rothschilds did it first. And they were like, I think it's the Rothschilds. Yeah. Where on their crest, one of them didn't do shit. So he didn't get a place on the crest, which you're like, that's savage as fuck.
That's right? Amazing. I love that.
But I get it. Like, well, you know what? If you don't do anything, you don't deserve it. This is the problem with Nepo babies, is if you don't do anything, you don't deserve anything. If you don't deserve anything, you're not valuable. It's that simple.
Okay. At the same time, I disagree with that, because I don't think that you need to be able to work to deserve a place on this planet, or to deserve housing or food. I think those are human rights. And for people who are disabled or elderly, I think
not elderly, disabled.
No,
absolutely.
yes,
No. You had your whole life to fucking figure it out, and you didn't. Hey, there's old age security. Good luck. You're back in the Thunderdome. If you can't handle it, there are options for you.
What? So Social Security? You don't think that Social Security should be a thing?
It wasn't meant to be a thing. And I'll tell you right now is people anytime, let's be honest, right? Is that anytime the idea that you could use Social Security as your safety net is insane. Because how many people, right? And I remember Mickey Flanagan, who's a UK comic, who's like, I'm not sure where he's from. I believe it would be a dodgy area of the UK. Okay, but this is a man he's very entertaining for the fact that he is a scam artist at best. Like that's the pinnacle of his careers of being a painter and stealing stuff was like just like, and for him, he does a joke where he goes, someone's like, oh, I got council housing, which means technically you're never gonna have to pay rent again. Okay. Or it's very minimal. And they're like, hey, if you get on the sick, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And you're like, so the idea that you could say, oh, if I get on disability and I'm in government housing, I don't have to do anything anymore. You're like, that person has a mental health issue, right? Because being of value in society is a beneficial thing as a human being. Now, don't get me wrong, paying taxes, government, all that shit, I'm against. But being useful in life, and that's not necessarily a job, right? Because remember, quote unquote, the hardest job in the world is being a mom. So, right, like there's certain points where you're like, yeah, being at home, it's a fucking job. No, sounds ageist, not gonna lie. Yeah, that's fair.
Look, okay, you pay into Social Security your entire working life. I feel like you should be able to, you are able to, be able to live off of it. I think also as automation continues to increase, and it should not be something that we should fear if it means we have like a strong social safety net. And
well, what incentive? Remember, the origin for sabotage was a Frenchman's sabot, which was a heel that he would throw into the weaving machine because it was stealing their jobs. Look it up. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, right? Automation, what incentive for the work person is there for automation? Ever in all of history? Just give me one. One incentive.
To stop working? So you don't have to break your back doing that labor anymore?
We live in a world that if you stop working, you stop earning. You stop earning,
you die. Dead. Yeah. So, but I'm saying that if there are things like UBI and like the closer we get to like Star Trek, but
remember that had a very specific issue, which was having a replicator where it could turn matter into different matter was what changed the ability that people needed to work. Why? Because if I need food, it will make me food out of whatever the fuck it works on, right? That's the difference. People can survive. There are a lot more takers in life. Absolutely, Paul. I agree. People that work to pay for life, all the things. Absolutely. Listen, and that's the thing is we stopped valuing people we didn't pay for what they gave. Like someone who is at home and takes care of the home. That is a very valuable position. Remember, artists, huge. Listen, see, my only problem with artists is because it's subjective. You have some people who are just fucking retarded, and they're going, "I'm an artist, man. You just put poop on the wall. You're not an artist." That's right. Like I had this argument with Victoria. We were downtown Toronto. And we saw that there's going to be a Salvador Dali something, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And she goes, "I didn't know you like Salvador Dali." I'm like, the only time I've seen Salvador Dali art was when I went to New York City, and my wife and my best friend's, now his wife, both of them told us, "Oh, you have to go to the MoMA. It's such an experience." I would have had more fun at IKEA, okay? except for the Salvador Dali exhibit, which was magnificent and very entertaining. Now, that being said, you're like, some people, maybe they should make furniture, not be an artist. But other people, like Salvador Dali, clearly an artist.
Yeah.
Right? Like It's tough.
I think for like for art, and then also just having a hobby. This has come up a lot in like my parents as they've gotten older, where I've gotten to see the effects of quitting the workforce and on their mental health. So my dad, he has Parkinson's. He's retired because of said Parkinson's, but he also has a second set of kids who are in middle school right now. So that's one thing. But the other thing is that he's played music since he was a kid, and he plays music. That's his hobby. Is making music.
But
Meanwhile,
good at it, right?
Yeah, he is good at it. He's been in bands and stuff. Meanwhile, my mom, who is like she's a year younger than my dad. She doesn't really have a hobby. She gardens, but that's more of like taking care of your house. That's not like something you only do for like personal enrichment for entertainment. She doesn't have that, so it's harder for her to be okay with retirement. And I think for millennials and Gen Z, and I'm assuming Gen X, where like hobbies became more of a thing when you were kids. But there was also that thing from your parents going, you got to give that shit up. You're growing up. Right?
There was an article on this that I've saved and I want to read, was that the idea that to become an adult, you have to kill the child in you. And that is like, we're not guided through that. And that's like part of the reason why as a teenager, a lot of people have a really hard time transitioning, because listen, of course, you're always told you got to give that shit up, fucking grow up. Right. I have comic books that are just as old as I am. And people are like, oh, you fucking loser. Okay. That's worth a few grand. So fuck you. How about that? Right. So like, it's
but I don't think you necessarily should. I feel like if you have kids, it's a good way to connect with them.
Huge.
Like Katie's nephews, my fiance's nephews, are about 7 and 8. They love Pokemon, and
awesome.
I've been, I almost kind of sort of learned to read from Pokemon Red, because I got the game before I got the game before I started kindergarten, and so they teach you to read in kindergarten, and it like kind of helped me learn to read. So, that's neither here nor there. But I'm able to connect with them because they'll bring up like all this stuff, and it's like, bitch, I've been doing this since before you were born.
Which absolutely.
And it allows me to like make those bonds with those kids, even though like they're just sort of my, what do you call them, like nephews-in-law,
step nephews.
I'm not really sure, but it allows you to like foster those bonds with your kids, but also it just lets you like get off stress. I play Card Fight Vanguard. I run a podcast. That's my other podcast that I run, and it allows me, not only am I making money off of it, patreon.com/nexus@night, but but it also allows me to like just Thursday night is card night, and that's when I yell about what happened to me at work that week. And it's where Thursday night is for the boys, right?
Yeah.
And we just play cards. Some people went for a pint down at the pub. I go to Ground Control Gaming in Santa Monica, California, and I double crit my friend Richard to death. That is what we do.
But that's a healthy use of your time.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's the problem has been that people will go to their local watering hole. There you go. So, but that's the whole idea is that, is that like, if you take the time to meet people, which you would, like a bar, you can't meet people at a bar anymore. That's just not a thing.
That's true. Yeah.
Like that's creepy. If you meet people at the bar, you're a murderer. That's what you are, right? So, and what, you're gonna meet people at the library? No, because the library is where perverts hang out.
Well,
right? Like,
also
that's why
having
a hobby.
Yeah.
Also true. But that's a hobby will get people out of their shell and create a camaraderie that, like, look, people were 18 and were sent off to the military. They learned to deal with people by being in trenches with them. It's not the same, but when you're trying to do something as a hobby for your own passion, you will put in all that extra time. You'll take the time to think about it, ponder it. And you know what? When you meet people like that who have the same thing, like, oh, I'm trying to be successful here too, you have a common ground because you realize it's independent, right?
Yeah.
That's whereas at a bar, not anymore, people.
When
sadly.
you move to a new city and you have a hobby, you can like look up Facebook. There are Facebook groups for everything,
Just
right?
instant.
Cardfight Vanguard Los Angeles, right? Or you know, you're into Legos, right? Legos Toronto, like whatever the thing is. Yeah, it allows you to meet those people, and then maybe you can then go, let's go for a pint or something.
Sure. Well, okay. I use this as an explanation at work where I'm like, listen, we're Paul. Yeah, that's a number one hobby.
Yeah,
for
that.
Older.
Oh yeah, sure. Best hobby.
Sorry, but this is true. But look, that's the whole idea, was that I would tell coworkers, and I'm like, listen, we can work together. That's fine. Then maybe sometime we'll hang out and have a conversation. That's nice. That's the next step. Maybe we'll have lunch here, right? That's the next step. Maybe we'll go somewhere for lunch and hang out. Okay, that we'll be seen in public hanging out. Okay.
Yeah.
After that, maybe we'll grab a beer after work, like right after work. If that goes okay, maybe we'll go out with our wives.
Yeah.
Right. I used to do this as a bit where I'm like, the stages of making a new friend at work. And I'm like, and the worst part is, we'll arrange for a restaurant, and then suddenly someone's asshole of a wife is like, oh, I'm actually vegan as of this week. Fuck you. Okay. Fuck you, you asshole.
Yeah.
and your wife's kicking you under the table, and you're like, I didn't know they were crazy. I thought I did all the things. I checked all the boxes.
Yeah.
You know, that's the hard part.
The only like super secret code we have so far is the triple hand squeeze, which is get me the fuck out of here. I'm done.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is, oh God.
Yeah.
So many times it hasn't even worked. It's like, we can't do anything. But listen, when it comes down to it, I think the biggest change in perspective was, if you find doing work something that you love, great. But understand that people will abuse that love every opportunity they get.
Yeah, and you shouldn't have to commodify your like the work that you do that makes you happy, be it a hobby or whatever, to live.
No. That's your safety net. That's honestly, it's not your old age security and stuff like that and the government. No. The last thing you can possibly do is take your hobby. That's why it's important to have multiple hobbies, but take a hobby and then try and do that. You may lose your joy for your hobby, but that's your last choice. And that's or sell your body, one of the two.
I kind of wanted to finish the episode off by talking about what are your tricks for being lazy at work, because I know that the people on r/anti-work are here for this thing, because everybody's got their tips, and people listening to this on YouTube, sound off in the comments below. What are your tips for avoiding work at work? And I guess if you're listening to this on your podcast app of choice, I think you can rate it, give us a rating or something.
Yeah.
At Generation Dan. Yeah, at Generation Dan. I'll put the question up and you can
absolutely hit us on our Twitter or Instagram or whatever. But I know for me, when I worked in a branch, I would have friends and I would tell them to come over and we'll have a meeting if they have the time, and they would come in, so it would look like a business meeting. And I would just shoot the shit with them, like, just bring me coffee, man. It's fine. I'll pay for the coffee. Just come hang out. Because I had friends who were still in school and shit, right? So it was useful. Yeah, because then you had a lot of meetings. Yeah, a lot of meetings this week. A lot of meetings. Lots of new customers just feeling, any of them work out? And, no, but I think they have parents and it might work out. And just full bullshit.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be people within your work. It would just be like anybody Like your friends in general?
Oh yeah. No, not coworkers. It would be friends from outside of the bank to come in, and I'm like, I need you to
look like a client.
No. Dress any way you want, but say I'm here to see Constantine. And then all hell will break loose because nobody knows me as that. And they're like, who's that? Oh, that's Dino's. I'm like, no. You come in here heavy, like it's business. And even, hey, come in all aggressive, be like, hey man, I've been looking for you. Come on in. And don't worry, I close the door. We got at least an hour and a half. We're good. No problem. Just always works. Nobody complains. What are they going to do? Interrupt. Hey, most branches that I worked at, because I was a financial advisor, I outranked the manager. So the manager was a lower level than I was. So if they tried to talk shit, I'm like, who do you think you're talking to there, son? Because I don't answer to you.
Son, yeah.
Yeah. I did that to a few people. They were really angry. I'm like, I don't care. What are you going to do? Nothing. So shut up. But yeah. What about you?
You definitely look like you could pull off boy. Like, depending on who, but yeah.
Wow. I'm still 6'2" and 300 pounds, right?
Boy.
Like, who's going to say, somebody say, you know what? You giant man of a monster. I don't agree.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to eat you. So
go full Professor Snape on them, boy. Anyway, like what I would do typically is first what I affectionately call the Costanza method, which is always look annoyed. Yeah. So when you start a job, always look like a grumpy puss immediately. You're always in a bad mood. Easy. You're always just trying to like. Ugh. I sigh a lot just in general, so that like works on its own. When you start a job, always pretend you have IBS, and you always have 4 living grandparents.
Or 8. I go with 8.
8? Oh, because they all remarried.
Absolutely. In this day and age, I'm the descendant of whores. Yeah. Absolute whores.
So you always have all your living grandparents / parents, if you're old enough. You always
extra
have
siblings,
IBS, or just some kind of like gastrointestinal condition, because if you call out of work and they go, why? Nobody wants to hear about how graphic your diarrhea was.
Also true. And you know what? It's even better if you can say that I would actually make up disabled relatives that you are in care for, that you have to care for. Great line. Because you know what? Any manager that says, how dare you take care of your disabled relative instead of coming to work? Hey, halfway through the sentence, they're like, how dare you not let us know so we can send you flowers? We'll send you, maybe you can get some extra benefits. I don't know. Like you can't. It's one of those things where you're like, what do you mean, you people? Everyone's like it's immediately useful. So
yeah, so those are like the groundwork you have to lay as soon as you come in. But in terms of stuff you can do now, if you're just hearing this for the first time, get a clipboard and walk. Just go everywhere. If you're in a giant building where not everybody has a lot of communication with each other, just take a lap every couple hours or so.
Also, a very helpful hint was take a pen and put it in the clipboard, but not all the time. So if someone really stops you and challenges you, be like, have you seen my pen? I was just here and I swear I had it. And then they'll help you find that pen that's at your desk. I'll tell you a lot. You got to be very,
that's
good. To be very careful.
I didn't know about the sometimes pen, sometimes not pen. That's good.
I am a wealth of horrible knowledge. Remixing songs with dirty and raunchy songs is forever the best.
Not good remixes, but maybe I'll make something of substance.
Listen, I would try and play it in your work environment so people don't, and people are like, oh, I love this. What the hell?
Yeah.
It just, it's very useful.
Oh my God.
You should follow me on Instagram. I load up, I believe the Instagram is There I Ruined It, and it's a mashup of 2 songs or more, and they are horrible. So
the one the first one you sent me was the song of all yeses, and then the song of all no's. Yeah.
Half of it was Lil Wayne, the Beatles. There's a lot of them.
Usher.
Yeah. Very useful. But
so let's see. There's the clipboard method. If you're at a computer, and especially if your computer is facing everybody, get real good at the auto swap between Reddit or whatever website you're on and your thing.
Yeah.
Dark mode is your friend because it always looks like more official looking and less like your eye isn't drawn to it as much on a dark screen. And then there's like a code you can run where Reddit just looks like a business website where it like translates all the links and stuff. I don't run that because I don't need to, but it's a thing you can do.
Well, that's the other thing is if you a lot of websites will change their format to look like news, because if you always have different news, like the Daily Mail has a lot of pictures and different size font on their webpage. So it's always good to have something like the Daily Mail, which is a horrible newspaper. Let's be honest. It's almost as bad as the Inquirer, right? Yeah. But entertaining as fuck, and tons of half-naked British chicks, which can't go wrong.
Christ. Yeah.
It's not my fault, but like realistically, that's definitely. I was never good at that kind of stuff, so I'm like, I'll just work for 8 hours like a slave. I don't care.
The espionage of it all, yeah.
Well, I have a hard time since my first marriage broke apart. I've been committed to not lying, and Victoria hates it because then I'm just honest all the time, and then like I'll say things that they're honest, and nobody wants honesty. It's just, it's a horrible. I've learned to mask it by pretending to be confused. Like I look at things and be like, well, I've never. So instead of saying that's not going to work, you fucking idiot, I say, well, I've never experienced it that way, but let's give it a try. Yeah. And people are a lot more receptive, but they're stupid. They're very stupid. A lot of them. It's very aggravating to me, but yeah, in general.
So yeah, we hope you enjoyed those. If you have any tips of your own, put them in the comments or tweet them at Generation Dan. Yeah, thanks for listening. Leave a like, leave a comment at Atlas Novak on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, or you can follow my other podcast at Nexus at Night on Twitter or Instagram, and it's about Cardfight Vanguard. So if you're a fan, go check that out. What about you, Dino?
I'm at Dino the Genetic Marvel. I asked Atlas to teach me how to play Vanguard. He said no, that I'm too old and my fingers are too fat. So I'm going to try and play another game.
I didn't say that. I said you were ancient and your fingers would bump into each other, i.e. more like insulting than what it already was. Yeah.
A traffic jam of fingers. I love it.
Yeah,
no. But yeah, I've honestly I've started reviewing restaurants I go to just for the fun of it.
Nice.
Because I've had fun doing that in Mexico. And I have like a few 100,000 reports on Google for restaurants where like people just love the stuff that I post. So I'm like,
nice.
Why not? Thank you. Appreciate that. I even have like weird lines on my neck. Like I thought this was turning into a vagina, but apparently these are like tendons or something.
So for people just listening to this, Dino's lost a lot of weight recently.
I pointed at my neck where normally fat people get a vagina when they lose weight, but me, it looks like I'm just getting more cut and I am very strong with my powers. So I thought you were better, Atlas.
Christ. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and until next time, bye everyone.
Bye. Oh wait, I forgot to get the thing.